I think I'm ready to go. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Ray. We are streaming blacksmithing. Welcome to the stream today. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so glad to be here today. So, where we left off, Friday, I ended up canceling stream because my grandparents came in town from half a country away, and it was a surprise for my birthday. So I didn't want to rush their visit, and so I spent a little bit of time saying hi and visiting and stuff. So at the end of that, I came home and there's a couple of things left on our axe that I really wanted to work on and kind of finish up. And so this is where I have left the axe as of right now. Hey Knots! So I opened the eye a lot more, but it's not all the way open. So you can kind of see that, it's pretty big, but there's also like a little bit in that very center area that hasn't broken out yet. So I was working on it a little bit, kind of grinding out the front, some of the back, and unfortunately, I gave myself another grinder bite. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I gave myself this one. On Friday, I gave myself this one. And unfortunately, yeah, I've done it again. So today we are going to take a break from the axe because I think I need to put that down for a moment and start working on something else. Come back to it at a later date so I will finish it. It's definitely in a point where it still can be finished. We are not in some kind of a catastrophic failure state or anything like that. But I think I need to take a break, step away. We'll come back to it at a later date. So today's project, I have a railroad spike here. And I've never really worked with railroad spikes. I don't have access to a lot of them, but I recently acquired a few. Corwin sent me a couple, and I've also got one in some scrap that I got a hold of. So we are going to take a look and see what we can do with some of these railroad spikes. So today I want to do a stake flipper. It's a very classic railroad spike project. So we're going to spend some time drawing out this railroad spike, maybe putting in a twist or something like that. And also, just making a really simple, stake flipper. So because of the position of my grinder bite, unfortunately, I can't do a lot of hand forging. I can't really wrap my finger around the hammer very well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time using the press to draw this down. I know it's probably cheating, especially on such a classic and simple project, but it is what it is, right? Hey Corwin, welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great weekend, guys. And yeah, so we're gonna start working on this. I'm gonna start up the forge once the ad break is over, so that way you guys get to see that. And then I'll talk a little bit more about what's been going on recently. I've got a lot to tell you guys. A lot to tell you guys. This is a very full bottle of water. Not a lot of room for, the vacuum to it, or like the air to enter into the bottle and let the vacuum escape. So, it's being weird. So yeah, Twitch is in the middle of an ad. So once that ad is over, I will continue well, not continue, but I'll get started. So hopefully things work out for us and everything will be okay. All right. Let's see. All right. So our ad break is over. So like I said, before the ad break so rudely interrupted us, we are going to get started by drawing down this spike into a nice stake flipper. I want to give a decent amount of handle, so we'll probably leave this section here so that we can get a twisted handle. We'll draw down this side over here, and hopefully, you know, we can make a useful tool. So because this is so small, we're going to use the mailbox, save ourselves a little bit of propane, give ourselves a lot of heat, and we'll be using the press today. So that's the first thing that we're going to do is light up the forge. So once that forge is lit, we'll see what we can, ow. This is going to be difficult, isn't it? You're going to be super difficult. Come on. You never know how much you use your pointer finger until you lose it. There we go. There we go. All right, let's do this. Light this up. Move this forward just a hair before it gets hot. All right. Hopefully that'll work for us. Hey, Mahalo, welcome to the stream. 90 stream streak. Goodness gracious. That is a large stream streak, guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. All right. So we've got the railroad spike in there, and we're going to heat it up. I think we're doing all right with it. Yeah, looks like we are. It's heating up pretty good. Or like the forge itself is heating up pretty good. Okay. So yeah. I don't know how that happened. Have you streamed 90 times? I know, right? Have I streamed 90 times? I don't feel like I have. I feel like it's, you know, I'm just, you know, a brand new streamer, doesn't even understand Twitch and whatnot. And, you know, here I am streaming to both Twitch and YouTube. I mean, I'm growing up a little bit, you know. So, what was I going to talk? Goodness gracious, I lost my train of thought a little bit. I apologize for that. So yeah, we are going to be making the stake flipper with the press. But yeah, so honestly, I can't believe that it's the middle of August already. I feel like we just barely got started with August to begin with. But you know, it's also because I've had to cancel stream 4 times this month already. And that's definitely not something that I ever wanted to have to do. Like getting sick and, you know, all that. I hate canceling stream. I love hanging out with you guys. I love streaming. I love coming out into the shop. And unfortunately, you know, this month has been really hard, you know? I don't know about this project. Railroad steaks just don't sound all that tasty. How are things? Have you chopped down a tree with the axe yet? Hey, if you're not making big mistakes, it's not a race, Smithy stream. I mean, that's kind of true. I do make a lot of really big mistakes. Welcome to the stream, Bluesy and Dr. Optimal. Hello, hello. But yeah, so this month has kind of been a weird kind of month, you know. I was sick for a week, and you know, I've got random family, and I love seeing my family, don't get me wrong. I love seeing my family, but you guys are also, you know, a community that I care quite a bit about. If you do not make mistakes, how can you learn? Yes. And I am 100% of the belief that you learn more from making mistakes than you do from just learning things and just having it go smoothly the first time. So oftentimes I have a tendency to like pick the hardest iteration of a technique that I'm trying to learn just so that I can kind of learn more by making mistakes and struggling through it. So, yeah. You have a random family. Well, on Friday, I ended up canceling stream because my grandparents came from across the country to surprise visit me. I got a call about an hour before stream was supposed to start, and letting me know that my grandma and grandpa were in town. And I was like, wow, I don't, you know, I guess I will have to cancel stream again because, you know, family is very important to me. And they're getting older, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, I wasn't rushed or anything like that. You learn by making mistakes and finding out how to fix it. Exactly. And that's what's really happening with our axe today and this month. So I started making this axe, and it was kind of a challenge. It's my third axe, you know. I wanted some redemption from the first two, but you know, there is still a lot that this axe has to teach me, and axe making in general. It's an axe is incredibly deceptively complex. You know, it's like you just make a wedge, right, and then you just drill a hole in it, right, and that's simple, right? And it turns out that, you know, there's a lot that you can screw up with an axe, and including but not limited to, you know, not making the eye bigger or big enough, not knowing how to wrap an axe properly around a drift, you know, random mistakes with grinding said axe, you know, hence the bandage. So, like I said, we are going to take a little break from this axe. We will return. We will be vindicated. We will finish this axe. But I do need a tiny bit of a break. So, what we actually need to do with this axe is we need to complete the eye, right? So I set the bigger drift through the eye. So this is the bigger drift. You can kind of see where I started putting it through on both sides. And so I need to make sure that it goes all the way through the axe. There's a little bit of a lip inside of there that's not quite all the way through. And it definitely needs a little bit of stretching on the thick side. You can see that there is a thin side of the eye and a thick side of the eye. So once I push the entire drift all the way through, we're going to be able to thin that out again and kind of straighten out the sides. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of a bowing that's happening in that center area of the eye. So it kind of swoops up a little bit. We want to make that nice and straight. And we also need to thin this out, even if we are thinning this out by grinding it thinner. We will be able to make a functional, nice axe. I want to shape the blade a little bit better, you know, kind of figure out what to do with this butt end as well. We'll get it done. I just need a breather, some time away from it. That is a fine axe. Just polish it and it's good. I want it to be a little bit better, you know. There's a little bit more time, and I could definitely do it. The handle is wood. It's just from just form it to the axe. I mean, that's true. That's definitely true. But I'm almost to the point where I can fit it through anyway, and I would like to do it the correct way. So we're going to try it eventually. We're going to try and make it happen. All right, let me check up on this railroad spike. I think we're doing all right. I don't have the best tongs for railroad spikes. This has a really long bit on the end of it, so hopefully we're able to kind of figure that out and hold it correctly. If not, I don't know. I'll figure something out. Let me move the camera over, pan it just a hair. That way the door's out of the shot a little bit. I just noticed that. I don't know. It bothers me a little bit. New project, new tongs. You're right. I should just make a new set of tongs. But you know what? I'm trying to be a little bit, try to use what I got. And if it doesn't end up working the way I want it to, we'll make another set of tongs. New project, new tongs, right? So I was actually able to submit my axe to the Instagram contest. And I'm happy to report that Lexi is the one who won the Instagram axe challenge this month, or I guess the blacksmith challenge this month. So yay, Lexi. So Lexi wins the ability to pick out the next challenge for the Instagram monthly blacksmith challenge. So this challenge will be from now until the end of next month, the end of September. And the challenge that she has posed for us is to create a working lock, or not lock, a door handle. So it has to go through a piece of wood and it has to move, so it could be like a gate latch or a door handle or something that moves. So, and we can use any metal, mixed or copper, brass, steel, or mixed, and no electric welding. So, or except for tacking in case you need to forge weld something. So interesting. I don't know that I will have quite enough time to catch or to wrap my brain around that project and successfully complete one in time for this project, because I have a couple things that I need to complete first. And that one is a little bit more of a challenge. That it's multiple pieces. There's hinges that need to happen. And so I think that we're going to take that challenge, but I don't think that we're going to hold ourselves to the duration of this month's challenge. I think it's going to take me a little bit longer. Well, I think I want to really do that project. I just maybe will push it down a little bit. And that way I don't have to rush myself to wrap my brain around how to construct one. Moving latches are another level. Exactly, because we're going to have to kind of create some kind of a system, like a hinged system, or like some way for the pieces to move. So it's kind of like, we have a little bit of movement that we do with our tongs, with like the rivet and the holes. So I think that modifying that kind of design is probably the way I need to go. It could also be like a 3-knuckle system where, you've got like the 2 rounds and the one that goes in the middle, and then the barrel goes in through it. So there's several different methodologies behind that. But I feel like I need to do a little bit of research to kind of figure out what a good design is, something that's simplistic enough that I can complete, but also something that's like, kind of cool looking, You can make them out of wood. So yes, a gate latch does count for this particular challenge, as long as there are moving pieces that go through. It has to be mounted on at least a piece of wood, and if you like click or turn, the something on the other side must move as well. Yes, lots of cardboard aided design, and also probably clay design. Just to because there are a few pieces that I'm not entirely sure how to even like start forging. And clay is a very amazing way to kind of figure out how to shape things, how to make that metal move. So I think that's kind of, we're going to do a little bit of research, some designing. We'll figure it out. Like I said, we will take this challenge, but I'm not going to take the duration, if that makes sense. I'm going to allow myself extra time. All right. Let's take a look at our steel. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to do our first heat. Like I said, we are going to be drawing out this railroad spike a bit. Let's make sure that we're in focus just a little bit further. And let's do this. Or we could trip. Okay, what did I? Okay, it's this cable I tripped over and unhooked. Okay, are we good? All right. Let's try this again, guys. Apologies. Like I said, I'm not doing so hot this month. I'm not doing so hot this month. No striking out before the forge. Exactly, guys. Exactly. Man, I've already done some crazy shit or some crazy stuff today. I accidentally pushed when I put the laptop down on my cart, I accidentally squished my finger. The one that I have the grinder bite on. All right. And now we're struggling to get this piece out of here. Goodness gracious. How am I going to go about this? Maybe we'll use this. Can we push it out this way? Okay. Goodness gracious, guys. Goodness gracious. Ha! I got it. I got it out of there. Just not amazingly efficiently. Goodness gracious. Ugh. Goodness. Not as efficient as I wanted it to be, but we're getting some squish. So let's see what I can do about getting a different set of tongs. These are not conducive to what I'm trying to do, I think. Crazy gravity. Who invented that anyway? If you are loopy, red hot metal and heavy tools is definitely what you should be handling, right? I'm not entirely loopy per se. What I am is I've never worked with a railroad spike before, and I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but yeah. Let's see, will these work? I should be able to grab a hold. Yeah, those should work pretty well. Let's use these instead. They've got some nice square hole in there, and I'll be able to handle both sides of the head of the railroad spike. So it should make it a lot easier for me to move it around and get a good grip. So yeah, I've already done some kind of boneheaded things today. Like I said, when I was setting up all of the gear, I took the laptop and I set it down with my right hand, and I accidentally set it on top of my finger because, you know, it's one of those things. When I come out here, I forget where I'm injured and what, you know, what's wrong with me. So I have a tendency to, like, I don't know, do things that maybe I shouldn't. Railroad spikes are nice high carbon steel. No. So typically the railroad spikes that are used by railroads for, you know, holding the tracks down, those are typically a relatively low to mid carbon steel. So some of them can be hardenable, but they're not amazingly good for like knife steel. Now, there are several places that are blacksmith supply stores that you can buy high carbon railroad spikes, and I believe these are high carbon. So yeah, I do things I shouldn't do all the time. Yeah, probably not. You know, I'm not encouraging people to do that, but you know, sometimes I forget. You know, it's like when I forget that I am a little bit, or that I'm disabled, you know, and I just start pushing myself like I used to back before I got sick, and then, you know, I regret it later. So, you know, same thing, right? I forgot that I injured my finger because it wasn't hurting at the time, and then I brought down the laptop and squished it. So, you know. You know. Oh, so my OBS, like, little notifications, that's what I'm trying to say, are reminding me that we are still doing our creator drops for the month of August. So if you watch my stream for 6 hours, which I know it's going to be difficult to do because I've had to cancel so many streams this month, but 6 hours is just under 3 streams, so it is definitely possible to do still. But yes, if you watch my stream for 6 hours, there is a creator icon drop for you guys. Or if you subscribe, one subscription, one for yourself, or one gifted subscription, and there is a second icon for your name in chat. If you would like that. They both say Smithy. They got hammers on them. I figured they would be good community gifts. So eventually, you know, I might make them emotes that you guys can use too, just because like I said, I've had to cancel several streams this month, and I don't want them to go to waste. I want people to get to use them that want to use them. So yeah. How do you get the drops automatically? So I believe you get the drops by the watch duration. So when you start watching, there's like a little bar, and it fills from, you know, however long that you've been watching. And if you click your little icon at the top right hand corner of your Twitch, it'll kind of show you like the drops campaigns, and you can claim it from there, I think. Better Twitch TV browser extension can do auto regimes for drops. Oh, okay. See, I only do I've never done Twitch TV. I've never done Twitch on mobile. I've only ever done the website. So yeah, if there's anybody who has ideas on how to do that, how, to do that on TV or mobile, if people need, there are plugins for drops. Okay. I'm not, like I said, I'm not entirely sure how to get the drops on mobile or on television. Let me look to see if there is anything I can see. Now, I know that you can do Twitch on mobile because that's how I monitor chat. So there's a Twitch app and it kind of looks like that. And see if I can't figure out how to do it. I think it's being dumb because it's being slow. We'll keep working on that as we go. Okay. Okay, so on mobile, there is a gear in the upper left-hand corner. And if you click the gear, it gives you like the creator dashboard, your stream manager, the moderator. That's stuff for creators. But then it gives you like subscriptions, drops, Twitch Turbo. So drops is where you would click that. And then it will show you all of the different campaigns that you're eligible for. That's probably where you redeem that on mobile. Okay, you can do it. My 3210 cannot. Oh, okay. So yeah, you have to have a smartphone and be able to download the Twitch app. That's an Android or Apple exclusive, I think. They're both in the Apple Store. I don't know about like the other operating systems. Most phones these days like most smartphones these days are either on Apple or Android. All right. So we've got an ad starting in about a minute and a half. So once that's over, we're going to do another heat at the press. And yeah, so apologies. It took me a little bit of time to kind of figure out what was going on today. We're starting a little bit slow. Mine is a stupid phone. I do not like it when my phone is smarter than I am. See, I respect that, I would probably have a dumb phone if I didn't need my smartphone for specific objectives. Like I have, specific things that I need my phone to do, So when we first started streaming, I was using my phone to stream. Now I need to use it to monitor chat sometimes when we're out and about. There's a couple things that, it's nice to have a smartphone sometimes. I still have a desktop. I still prefer my desktop to do most of my internet browsing activities, but, sometimes. I call them burner phones. I mean, understandable. All right, so we are now in the ad. Once that ad is over, I will do my next heat. Oh, there was another thing I was going to talk about and how it's been rather challenging to stream lately. So yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Burner phones. I mean, I've used burner phones before. So yeah, it's been kind of a hard weekend for me. A lot of stuff has been going on, and it's made it really difficult to like get my rear in gear, you know? Not just the grinder bite, but also a few other things. So yeah. I mean, I've also used burner phones before in ways that are not like, you know, typically, oh, I don't want people to know that it's me. Like, you know, I used a burner phone when I went on a trip someplace that my carrier did not cover, and you know, I only needed it for a few days, but it was like a $20 burner phone, and it was like, you know, $20 for some minutes on it. So you know, there's uses for them, not just, you know, that sort of use. Okay, let's do another heat real fast. A color screen, it's light green or lighter green. It's been a while since I've had one of those types of dumb phones. All right, let's do another heat. All right, back in the forge. We're going to be rotating this guy 90 degrees after every heat so we can kind of keep it as straight as possible. You can kind of see that it's starting to bend around and around. So by rotating it as we go, that's going to correct that rotation. Okay. So the other thing that's been making it rather difficult for me to function as a human being this week is we're currently on a boil order. We've been on a boil order since like Saturday for some reason. Happy time zones. Welcome to the stream, Win. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so on Saturday, there was a water main break, and they're still working on the water line. So we are still under a boil order. We have water, it's at the correct pressure. Originally it was not. We had just like a trickle. So we have the ability to like take a shower or flush the toilet or, you know, that sort of thing, but we can't drink the water. So we've been having to buy jugs of water. And so I only have so much water to drink today. So I have half a gallon, I think, that I have allotted to me for this stream. So fingers crossed, that's enough. So yes, not cool. Lots of hardships for getting a chance to stream this month. But you know, my mom always used to say, when the going gets rough, you're right where you need to be, right? Doing the things that you need to do, you know, working hard towards something, it's not easy. And you know, when the going gets tough, you know, it gets harder to work, but you need to push through and it'll get better on the other side. So that's what I'm trying to do, is I am trying to push through and, you know, all of the hardship, get to the other side. When the growing gets tough, crawl. Yes. You know, that's what I'm trying to do. It's just like, just, I'm trying one step in front of the other. Just keep on keeping on, making things happen. And eventually it'll get easier again. It's not, you know, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but it's not always, you know, rainstorms and clouds either. So, you know, you just got to keep on pushing through. Things will happen, and, you know, eventually it'll get easier again. So that's what we're trying to do. We are continuing forward one step at a time. Hey, Blue Red, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm so glad to be hanging out with you guys and sharing, you know, blacksmithing and a fun time, you know? Also, the grinder bite, it's not as deep as the other one that I had earlier, like 2 weeks ago. So it shouldn't take as long to, like, to heal up, as long as I don't keep squishing it with the laptop, right? All right, let's do another heat. And then I'll probably move the camera again so we can get a little bit closer. I watched a rerun of the beginning to see the status of the axe head. I see you got another grinder ouchie. Battle scars galore. Yes! I have another ouchie, unfortunately. And, you know, it's all good. You live, you learn, you work through it. Alright, so we're going to turn it this direction next. It is also a case for when you are tired and frustrated, it is not the time to be using rotary tools, right? You got to have a clear head. I was a little bit frustrated due to certain, a couple of other things that were happening at the time. And then I also was like really rushing. So when you're not in a, I don't know, I'm going to say a zen state, you know, maybe be a little bit extra careful at the grinder if you're, you know, if you're doing that. I was not in a good mental space to be using the bench grinder, and I knew it, and I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I tried anyway, and I got mad at myself in the end. Yeah. It all worked out in the end, though, or it will all work out in the end. Like I said, I'm taking a small break from the axe. I'll probably work on it a little bit more this weekend and kind of see what I can get done with that. Like I said, this week is going to be working on railroad spikes. I've got at least 2 to play with. I might pull out a third. Depending on how quickly I can get things moving on these guys. We're definitely spending all week on the railroad spikes, though. Let's see. So the first thing that we're going to do is the stake flipper, and that's going to be today, hopefully today only. On Wednesday, I'd like to cut the second one into a Friedrich's Cross style dagger. So we're going to cut it halfway, hot dog style is like I try and call it, and then halfway perpendicular, so we'll have two cuts to the halfway mark, making a plus, and then we'll unfold it into a T shape and create a dagger shape. So that is the goal for our second railroad spike. Depending on how long each of these projects take us, we might take out a third railroad spike, and if we do a third, we'll probably do, I think I want to do a bottle opener. That's another classic railroad spike project, and I think it would be really fun to do. Fun projects. What was the dagger it called? A Friedrich's Cross? Is that what you're asking? I talked a little bit. Friedrich's Cross is kind of a blacksmithing technique that it's one of the really basic ones. So you cut a piece of square stock halfway down in one direction and then flip it all the way over, cut halfway like turning the blade 90 degrees. That way, when you splay them out, it creates a T. So this was one of the Friedrich's Crosses we did together, and that created our T. There's like a little bit of a hole in the center sometimes when you do that. It's also something that we've been using for some of our animal projects. Like you can make birds out of them. You can make little cross pendants out of them. That's a really popular project for that technique. But yeah, I saw somebody take a railroad spike and do that same thing with it. So basically, let's see. Let me grab my soapstone. So what they'll do is they cut a straight line down the center of that's definitely not a straight line, nor is it down the center, but a straight line down the center of the head of the of the spike, and then they'll cut along the flat part here in this direction, right? So then if you open this direction and open this direction, then you get a T shape. And this creates, the head creates like a hand guard for a dagger. So it's like a parrying fencing dagger. So I want to make one of those. I've seen a couple of guys make them over on Facebook, and I saw a tutorial kind of video of someone doing it on YouTube. So I want to try my hand. It seems a relatively simple project, but every time it's a relatively simple project, turns out it's going to be a little bit more tough and challenging. So I want to see what that challenge is. I want to try my hand. All right, let's do another heat. First, I do want to change the angle of the camera, though, real fast. We've been running this camera angle for a little while, at least. Raise it. Getting a little bit closer, a little bit higher. All right, let's do this. keeping it relatively straight. That's pretty good. All right. So, there's an old railroad near me that was covered in a bike trail. I should magnet fishing off the bridge for their old railroad hardware. Yeah. There's always a little bit of, you lose a lot of railroad spikes over time next to railroad tracks. You do have to be a little bit careful. In some areas, the railroad will tell you that all of the hardware and all of the pieces of railroad belong to that railroad. Not everywhere is like that, but some places, so just be a little bit careful. Most of the time the railroads are like, especially if it's not along a active railroad path, but still make sure that that people, it's not illegal, that they're not actually the property. Yeah, it's county owned now, not private rail. Yeah, so then you should be fine. Like I said, most players, there's a lot of places where it's free now, but in the past there have been a few places with a few issues that people have gotten in trouble for taking spikes from the wrong places. So, but county owned should be good. They probably wouldn't mind having you pick up garbage along the side of the trail. How we doing? I think we're doing all right. Let's push this down in a little bit further. Black Bear actually did a video, like a myth busting video based on that fact, and has found that a lot of places that previously, or may or may not have had that, where it's illegal to pick that up, it's not illegal anymore. So, yeah. There's a cute little hobo figurine that can be made from railroad spikes. Looks like a guy walking with a stick. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. They're kind of cute. I don't know. I don't think I have enough railroad spikes to make one, but, sometime in the future, if I get a hold of some, it'd be fun to make. It could be a fun project. All right. Let's do another heat. So you can kind of see that we've got some crinkle cut fries going on there. with the lumps and bumps from the half round. So for our next heat, normally what I would do is go over to the face of the anvil to kind of straighten those out. We're going to get a lot more length doing that. But this time we're going to use the flat side of the press. Like I said, I'm having a little bit of trouble using hammers today, so we're going to see if we can't make that happen with the flat side of our press this time. I like how some pieces are converting old rail lines into greenways. I went to walk along the High Lane in New York City, which is a converted elevated rail line. Yeah, so I live in an area of the Midwest where a lot of the train lines have been shut down for quite some time. And so the retired rail lanes have been they've been turning them into bike paths. So a lot of them cut through some really pretty woods and some really pretty terrain. So it's really nice to have access back so that you can ride bikes along them and get some good exercise and watch the pretty views. So I think it's a really great use of the retired rail lines. Now, there are still quite a few rail lines that are still in use in this area, and so there's still places that you can go and ask for their used spikes and clips and things like that, maybe used track. So it's still available, but yeah, they have been making some awesome nature trails and bike paths out of some of the defunct railroad lines. It's kind of cool. We've got a railroad line or like a bike path that was turned or that was made from a rail line that goes from one end of our suburb area to the other. And it goes through like 3 different towns. It's really cool. It's like several miles long, and well, not several. It's like 20 miles of bike trails. It's pretty amazing, and it's beautiful scenery, and it's a great ride. One of my favorite places on the rail trail, though, through a maple grove. It's all gold canopy in the fall. That is so cool. I wish more rail lines had recreational traffic on them. Trains are cool. There are tram tracks under the tarmac on my street. They get uncovered and repaved every time they dig around. Yeah. So I live near St. Louis, and there were a lot of like trams that there was, back in the early, early turn of the century, and like the early 1900s, 1800s, and so a lot of them they've just dug up the tracks or repaved over them. There is one line that they had going again at one point. On the Delmar Loop in St. Louis, and it was just this one road, and the trolley went back and forth, and it was really, really cool. But they took it out because it was causing a lot of traffic congestion in a really busy area. So, I think that it would be cool if they allowed, if they had more trolleys around, for public transit and things like that, or, for more private stuff. I know that they have buses that are shaped like trolleys these days, but it's not the same, I do a lot of research on the van, right? Because I have the camper van, and I've recently gotten suggestions on my YouTube feed for people who are creating vehicles that run along railroad tracks, like retired ones. I'm not entirely sure how that works. So, you know, maybe if you're interested in that, do your research, make sure that it is actually legal and they're not, you know, doing things that they probably shouldn't be posting on YouTube. But some of their vehicles are really, really cool. I watched a guy, he had built a car that was powered by a weed whacker, and it would go down the tracks. And he built a lot of it out of like Harbor Freight stuff, so it was really cheap. And he was just going up and down the train tracks. It was kind of cool looking. I'm going to do one more heat. Hopefully it finishes before our ad break starts on Twitch. Like I said, we're going to try and use the flat side of the dies for this one. See if we can't straighten things out, flatten them out a bit. Not bad. I think it worked pretty darn well, so we're going to turn it 90 degrees and start working on the other side. And yeah, it seems to be a lot flatter now than it was before, so we're going to get a lot more length coming out of this railroad spike. Let me show you guys kind of how much length that we've gotten. Looks like a good 2 inches from drawing that down. Not bad, not bad. Some of those home-built rail carts are really sketchy. Wobbly axes and no brakes. Yeah, I've seen that too. Okay, so my Band-Aid came off. So while this break is going, I will be right back. I am going to replace my Band-Aid, make sure that it doesn't get all filthy, and I will be right back. So give me a minute or two. All right. See if I can't get this on here all by myself. Oh, goodness gracious. Things and stuff, guys. Things and stuff. All right. I am putting a Band-Aid back on because my Band-Aid fell off. Occasionally that happens, but we're good now. We're good now. Okay. Let's see. Let's do another heat. Now that our ad is done, I think we're doing all right there. So let's do this real fast. Hopefully this Band-Aid is a little bit bigger, and so it should stay on a lot easier. At least that's the goal. Or I guess the idea. Alright, and we are getting a lot longer. Check that out. They are about the same length, yeah. Doing pretty good. Let's keep on keeping on. I really actually want to play with the hammer. We'll see if I can't manage to do it. Is the handle on that supposed to come off? Yes. So the knob on the press is, it's like just this little tiny piece of steel, and it bends because it's a really thin piece of steel that's just going through a little hole. So the reason that I just have a piece of tube that I've kind of created little slots that are the right size for that, so that if it bends, when it bends, I can cut off the little ends, shove it through, and replace it with another little pin. So it would be more convenient if I just had the leverage always on there, but the way it's currently built, it's not really conducive. So yes, the handle comes off. It just lives right up there. I have no idea what she just said. So this is a bottle jack. And so what is happening is I have an air compressor over there that is pushing air into the bottle jack, which pushes the plunger downwards. And so this knob, what it does is it opens and closes a valve that releases that air. So closing that valve will allow the plunger to be pushed down by the air compressor. And then when I open the valve, then all of that air seeps out, and the springs retract excuse me, they retract the die automatically. So the valve knob has this, the way that you're able to open and close it has this little pin. It's a really thin thing, and it bends really easily. So in order to be able to replace it when it's necessary, I have a temporary lever that opens and closes it. So hopefully that explaining more of how the press works will help you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it is a 20-ton press modified from one that you would find in a tire shop, or I guess it's designed to pop ball bearings out of wheels, and so I kind of modified it for blacksmithing. It just looked annoying to work with. I mean, it's not too terribly bad. Sometimes it can get annoying if I am not like immediately, sometimes I have it a little bit angled and then I miss the wings, and so it falls off and things like that. But overall, it's a better system than if I were to have welded it directly on there. I will say that if you are a blacksmith and are thinking about making your own press, the design with this design is not the best design out there. It may be a little bit on the cheaper side, but it's a lot easier and a lot better, more efficient, and faster to use the designs that are based out of log splitters. They're all pneumatic, but this design is a little bit worse. This design is a little bit older, right? I started blacksmithing in 2010. That was before Forged in Fire really made blacksmithing as popular as it is. So there were far fewer resources online to kind of play with. So this is what I had at the time, and it's worked for me ever since. And eventually I will replace it with something better, but until I have the money and the need to replace it, it works just fine for me. All right, let's do another heat. This time we're going to use the half round dies because we're going to continue to we're continuing to draw this down. Tapering is what I'm trying to say. All right. I think I'm going to do something that I was not going to do. I think I'm going to try and use a hammer. Does compression somehow make its temperature drop? I'll explain that in just 1 second. Let me move my camera. I think I want to do, I want to test my finger, my bum finger, and we'll see if I can't use a hammer like a good normal blacksmith. Because I'm going to get a lot more movement in the way that I want. And it's going to go a little faster. So give me just 1 second and then I will explain what's happening. It'll also allow the air compressor to recharge, and then maybe you'll be able to hear me a little bit easier too. All right. Okay. So, when I put the steel in the forge, it brings the steel up to a high temperature, which allows me to move the steel in any which direction I like, right? However, the second I pull the spike out of the forge, it is already cooling down. Every second it's outside of that forge, the temperature is dropping again. So anytime I touch it with a tool, anytime it touches the face of the anvil, a hammer, the dies, the heat is being sucked right out of that spike. And so that's why you need to work efficiently and quickly to move your steel in the way that you want it to go, right? So actually, the active pressure is minutely raising the temperature of the piece of steel, which is why back in the the classic blacksmith days, what you could do is you could take a thin piece of steel and strike it on the face of the anvil and heat up the tip of it, and that would be how you would start a forge back before matches and propane torches and things like that. It should in it. So, I mean, yes, it will, the dyes will pull heat out of the steel, but they also put a little bit back in with the pressure of all of the molecules being forced into a much smaller area. All right. I'm going to do another heat on the anvil. We're going to see how well I can work this out. I may or may not go back to the forge, but like I said, I'm going to try a thing. All right, seems like I'm doing all right for the moment. Pick that up a little easier. Drop forge. That always happens to me. It's because I never have a proper set of tongs, guys. I never have a proper set of tongs. All right. Seems like I'm doing all right for the moment. I'll kind of explain what's going on here, too. So it's just the increase in contact area rapidly cooling the shank. Kinda, yeah. Yeah, because like I said, the dyes are much bigger and much colder than the steel that's in the forge, right? So they are literally sucking the heat out of that steel and cooling it down. All right, so I was a little bit afraid to use the hammer because the grinder bite is right where I would wrap my finger around the hammer's handle. So like so. So if I hold the hammer like so, then I risk smashing my finger on the face of the anvil. So if I choke down enough, I should be able to miss the face of the anvil. I do also have a tendency to do a diagonal when I'm hammering, so hopefully we can manage this. We have a heat index of 112.6 Fahrenheit to 44.8 Celsius. Not as hot as the forge, but not enough to make you notice. Oh, but hot enough to make you notice. Yeah, that's icky. It's that hot where you are? Ugh. It's in the 80s today, but it also rained and stormed all night last night. So I think it cooled it down quite a bit. But we do have a lot of humidity here today. So yeah. The bigger piece of steel is always going to pull heat out of a smaller piece of steel, right? So that's why a lot of blacksmiths will kind of reduce the amount of contact that the piece that they're working with has on the face of the anvil. So a lot of people will kind of, when they're tapering, they'll tip up the piece of steel and use the edge, the corner of the anvil to kind of move the steel rapidly. It reduces the amount of heat that's drawn out of your steel and increases the duration of time that you can use to move your material. All right, let's do another heat. Don't they sell anvil warmers? I mean, not really. Your piece of steel is the anvil warmer. Over time, as you're using the anvil, it will warm up. Oops. As you can see, my steel is not cooling down as rapidly as it was under the press. So it's starting to warm up a little bit. It's called a torch. I made hammer and plier cozies. I do not recommend hammer cozies or koozies or however you want to say that. So the reason that oftentimes I will have a bare hand on my right hand, my hammer hand specifically, is because I need as much grip as possible to so that I don't fling my hammer forward and into my cameras or into my wall or, you know, that sort of thing. And then as far as, pliers, you get long tongs, right? So as long as you keep the steel far enough away from your hands, they don't tend to get too hot. Longer tongs. But I will admit there are times that I will use like welding gloves with tongs because they do get hot, and I'm using a really large piece of steel. Am I gonna drop that? I don't know. Maybe. All right, let's do another heat. Whoops, drop forged again, always. All right, so I'm liking the very tip, the size of that for the rest of this. So what I want to do is I want to take this tip and draw all of this thicker section down to this size. And then I'll draw that into a point that we can twist around to make our stake flipper. This section right here, I kind of want to keep that relatively the same width because I want to turn this into the handle. We're going to do some twisting. I haven't decided what kind of twist I want to do. If anybody's got any interesting suggestions for that, please do let me know. We actually started using that grippy stuff you line shelves with but more for hand comfort than heat. We run a cold shop. Oh, okay. That makes sense, right? I used to work in a jewelry store, and a lot of times, like specifically the wire cutters, they didn't come with very thick grip, and so sometimes they get really uncomfy using them over and over for ring sizing. But yeah, badly fitting gloves on small hands are the enemy of good grip. Oh, armor making. Okay. That makes sense, especially if you're doing like chainmail. Sitting there with a pair of pliers in each hand for like hours upon hours, making, opening, and bending all of the rings. I can imagine that you would definitely want something squishier to use. Yeah, my jewelry pliers have crocheted koozies too. Ooh, fancy crochet. I'm not a big fan, or I don't know how to crochet, but my family does. My mom and my sister love crochet. So, they'd be all over making me little cozies for my plier handles if I needed them. I've done a little bit of armor making too. But I have a tendency to stick towards a little bit more like plate. It was mild steel, so it's starting to get a little bit rusty. I gotta polish it up again. But this was my Mandalorian pauldron. So I've got my little mud horn there, and so we did a piece of plate. But I used my regular tongs for that, like my blacksmithing ones. I've got several lovely stakes for that. It's a lot of fun to do. I need to do another piece. I haven't decided what piece I want to do yet, because I promised you guys that we'd eventually do a full set of armor, but I've only done the one piece so far. Yep, through opening the links for chainmail, one pair of pliers, and an adjustable wrench in a vise. Wow. Nice. I have a full suit of plate mail, and I've done some fantasy armors too. Yeah, I used to do a lot of work for the SCA, which is the Society for Creative Anachronism, and so I would make different pieces of armor for them. So I've done a few gorgets. I have replaced some helmet masks for cut and thrust, like saber combat and things like that. And then I've also done some like elbows, some knees, things like that. A full set of armor, yes. I promised last year that over time I wanted to do a full set of armor on stream, because I absolutely love making plate, like plate armor, because I started in metalworking as a silversmith. So when I started like working with metal, a lot of what I did was creating bowls and vessels and things like that. So, like tea infusers, all kinds of crazy stuff. And the techniques work so well for making plate armor. And I can use the same stakes and the same techniques. I just have to, change the methods of working. So instead of working cold and annealing the pieces over time after I've work hardened them, I use the big forge to heat them up so that I can move them easier. So I did the pauldron last winter, and I should do another piece. I haven't decided what piece I want to do yet. Got a weird message here. I gotta close it. I do armored fighting. We're SCA adjacent, but we use metal swords, so all our faceplates have Lexan or perforated steel over the eye slits and other Perforations. Yeah. So the cut and thrust modification I did for the STA, it was perforated steel. So it wasn't like corrugated or anything. It was like, it was just a piece of steel that had, it looked like somebody had gone through and drilled holes in a pattern throughout the whole thing. So I was able to make a replacement faceplate for something that was more of a decorative helmet. So it was a fun project. I also learned during that project how to oil blacken things, which is more challenging than I expected. And it's also kind of dangerous, so I don't recommend it, especially if you are using the boiled linseed oil technique. I would recommend more of a gun bluing technique, where that's a lot more safe to do. I made a spaghetti helm out of scraps. Turned out 3 of the 4 panels I used were blued. And when I heat treated it, the oven to turn it purple with controlled oxidation, 3 panels stayed blue and the rest is purple. Oh, that would be obnoxious. That would kind of be obnoxious. All right, so I have an ad break coming up in about a minute. So once that ad break is up, I will do my next heat. Like I said, we're going to focus in on thinning out the length of the, I guess, the wand portion of this stake flipper. And hopefully we can get that through pretty easily. I think I might change the camera angle as well. I want to start using a little bit of the horn of the anvil to kind of get a little bit more speed. Speed. Move this back just a hair. There we go. All right. It's fine. I tried to get it more blue anyway. Well, you know, it's like the Goths, right? When you got too many different shades of black, when your blacks don't match. Except this time it's your blues don't match, right? All right, so we should be able to get a pretty decent amount of drawing down pretty quickly if I use the horn of the anvil. I think we should be able to finish this piece before the end of the stream. I have to decide what kind of twist I want to do, though. I don't know. I don't know what kind of twist I want to do. Do I have my sample twists? I have some of my sample twists, I think. I've got that one. I've got 3, I think, of my sample twists around. Okay, let's do another heat. The shop did a movie armor in aluminum, full suit for a 6-foot after, weighed 21 pounds. My battle armor in 16 gauge steel is 65 pounds. That is a lot of weight. But if it's distributed correctly, it's not too bad to carry that. Of course. We like to drop our spikes around here. Yeah, it's way easier to wear than to carry. I'm sure, because like when you're carrying it, you know, it's a big block of weight, whereas if it's all distributed across your entire body, then your arm is only carrying however much armor is on the arm and, you know, the other arm and whatnot. So it's distributed evenly. It's going to be a lot easier to carry. My mentor used to always say, it's found more a stable location. Yes, it's more densely packed. All right, so for those of you who are in the know, do you have a preference on what style of twist we want to do for this handle? For those of you who are less in the know, let me see if I can't find my last couple samples. So there's three of them. And then let me grab down the pineapple twist. Okay. Pineapple. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the different twisting samples that I've got. So this is a Rubik's Cube twist. This one is a little bit more complicated. This is actually going to take us a little bit of extra time. I probably won't finish this week if this is what, or I mean not this week, this session, if you guys choose this. So this is a Rubik's Cube twist. Very, very nice. This is the pineapple twist. So you can kind of see that each of these diamond shapes are in there. That is a pineapple twist. That's a little bit less challenging to do. This is just a regular twist with I guess it's kind of a half pineapple twist. This is how you create the initial step of the pineapple twist. So the next step of this, or to create this, would be continue the line down again, right? So you've got the line that goes down the twist. If you continue another line, then you can untwist it a little bit and you'll create this pineapple twist. And then I guess I want to call this a fluted twist, right? So it's got that fluting on there. And then the last is the easiest, the most simple. This is just a basic twist. So if any of you guys have a suggestion, a preference for these samples, or like which handle you guys would like to see, please do let me know. Ooh, pineapple. I would twist again like I did last summer. Let's do the twist. Exactly. So we will be doing a twist. You guys wanted to see a pineapple twist, it looks like. So I'm going to put my samples away. As you know, you can probably see that I already started doing that. I will grab that after stream and put that back up. So, okay. So we're going to do the pineapple twist as our twist for this project. That means I'll need the angle grinder. Do I have the proper disc? No, I do not. We'll figure that one out as we get to that point. Okay, so we're going to do a pineapple twist handle. Rubik's Cube would wreck the welder's glove. I mean, maybe. We've done it before, you know, as I showed you, it is possible to do. I just, it's a little bit more challenging. It takes a little bit longer to create the little boxes that twist around. It's also called a stairway twist, so it's Rubik's Cube or stairway. So yeah, we'll do a pineapple twist as our handle. for this piece. Let's continue to draw down our piece. We've got a few things left to do before we get to that handle. And I do want to complete that today, if I can manage it. Whoa. Goodness gracious, Ray. Dropping things, letting them fly all over the place. All right, so for our next heat, what we're going to do is drop it. No, we're going to straighten this out on the flat of the hand or of the anvil. You can see that there's kind of some lumps and bumps. Then we're also going to draw out a tip on this guy, and that way we're going to be able to do our nice curve for the stake flipper section, and then we'll start working on the handle, which is this section right here. Couple things left to do. I mean, using it as a handle, I couldn't wait, or I wouldn't want to hold it. Yeah, that's kind of true. It's not the best handle, or at least not the best or most comfortable handle. But you know, this is more for decoration, less for function. You know, I think honestly, if I were making it specifically for comfort, I think a regular basic twist is probably the most comfortable handle that I've ever used for a functional piece of grillware, but I do also really like the pineapple twist look. So like I said, for our next heat, what we're going to be doing is flattening everything out, making sure those planes are nice, parallel, and even, and straight. Then we will kind of create the hook for this tool. And that'll be our next couple of heats. I think we're still doing okay time-wise. I don't know what time it is. Oh, we're at 1 hour and 45 minutes, which means we have about 45 minutes left. We might end up going a little tiny bit late in order to do our Rubik's Cube twist, but I still think we should be fine with it. I still think we should be fine. All right, so I've got my crescent wrench over there. I also have a pipe wrench over there if I need it as well. So we should be fine doing those twists. At least I hope. I hope. Making sure I got everything, all the tools that I need. Ooh, I don't know why I got the goosebumps. Okay, let's do our next heat. Like I said, oh wait, you know what? I should probably change the angle of the camera so you guys can see a little bit easier the face of that central face area of the anvil. Okay, let's do this. Of course, that's the way it goes. So we're starting to twist a little bit. That's why I kind of hammered base or on the corner. Goodness gracious. Keep dropping it. These are terrible tongs for this job. Ugh. All right, we're going to do one more heat, trying to straighten that out, but you can definitely see that we're starting to get that nice flat planes on there. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay, all the things. I think we're all right. I think we're doing all right. So, with the amount of times I have dropped this railroad spike, there's a part of me that wonders if I should just make a set of railroad spike tongs, but I don't use railroad spikes all that often, so I don't know what the solution is to that. Should I make a set of railroad spike tongs and then continue the spike projects, or should I just suck it up and use the ones that I'm constantly dropping? I will consider it. We'll see. We shall see. We use railroad spike tools for bending metal. I don't know that I have ever seen a railroad spike tool aside from a railroad spike set of tongs, that is. So I don't know. I have a Discord. If you're interested, you should totally send me a picture of what you're talking about in the Discord. The link is in the description of the stream, both the stream and the YouTube stream. All right, let's do our next heat. Like a fuller made from a spike. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about. Oh, come on. Goodness gracious. And every time I drop it, it's also bending it a little bit. So I think that's probably what we're going to end up doing, is we're going to start using another set of tongs. Let's try a different set. Okay. So for the next heat, what we're going to do is we're going to thin out the tip of this and create the area that we're going to make our hook. Or I guess we're just going to start on our hook. That's what I'm trying to say. Goodness gracious. It's a strange looking steak, but it's a mighty fine looking piece of steel. We have a couple of tools made from spikes. That makes sense. Spikes are readily available and easy to turn into tools. All right, so I'm going to use these set of tongs to hold them at a perpendicular angle. So instead of using parallel tongs, we're going to try and use perpendicular tongs. In theory. All right, so this is probably going to be our last heat before I change the camera angle again. I think I'm going to do a much lower angle so you guys can really see the hook shape forming. Because basically we are going to create a scroll that is parallel to the little wand section. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bend it 90 degrees. So we have that like whole hooky so that you can kind of flip the stake over. All right, let's try it. Fingers crossed these tongs work a little easier for this process. Oh, this is what I was afraid of. I was afraid I was going to smack my finger. So I'm starting to be a little bit more careful and conservative with my blows. So I think I'm going to take one more heat. These tongs are working a lot better. Get tired, smack self. I know how that goes. Yes. It's one of those things that, you know, you got to be in the correct state of mind when you're out in the shop or in, you know, a trade. You know, you can really mess yourself up when you're a mechanic of any type, woodworking, blacksmithing, machining, all that kind of stuff. You just have to be in a good mental space for it. All right. Let's get another heat in there. We should be good. Even sewing, gotta know when you're getting tired before you start making mistakes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Okay. I think I want to do one more thing. I know I keep saying one more thing, but I want to round out some of this area so that it is less sharp. So we'll round that out as our next heat. Probably just the area that's the tip. And then we will start on our handle. Yep, one more heat, one more heat, one more heat. Never enough. Never enough. Shouldn't take too long to heat it up, though. You know, because we're at the very, very end. And it's really thin. Let's do that. Okay. So then we will turn the scroll. Goodness gracious. It's totally because I don't think things all the way through before I'm like looking at stuff and getting distracted talking to you guys. All right. Let's round this out a little bit. All right. Nice and round, ready to go. This time for sure. Oh, look, a distraction. Where? I know. Squirrel. I think it'll be all right, though, this time. I promise. Except I can't promise it. I will do my best to be entertaining. Interesting. I'm very confused about what's happening with my YouTube right now. I don't know. It seems to be okay. I don't know. Something screwy happened. I mean, yes, I had a distraction too. There we go. Okay, let's do our next heat. We are going to spend some time on a scroll. That's what I want to do. I want to make a scroll. No distractions, just scrolling. And holding things really poorly. All right, we're going to get another heat. At least I started it this time. All right. I think I'm going to use these. I'm going to put these guys. These are scroll tongs. I'm going to put these right here so I can use them if I need them. All right. Let's do this. Hopefully we'll finish them. Okay. So not too bad. I kind of like that. But maybe I'll make it a little bit more round. Try and make it a little bit more round. And move this down a little bit. This will probably be a one heat camera angle. I want it to be right next to the edge of the anvil. So you can really see what I'm up to. There we go. That should work pretty good. Oh, hello. Who do I got? I got an ad break starting shortly. When do we get to see you rebuild a 100-year-old masonry powered or Massey powered forge? I'll know when someone decides to give me one. Unfortunately, I don't have quite as many sponsors as Alex Steele does. I've been watching his Power Hammer restorations as well. Also, Will Stetler has been doing some Power Hammer restorations on his channel as well. They are such interesting views, or series. I've been watching them very eagerly just to see what they've both been up to. But yeah, it's super interesting just watching them pull them apart and being able to like reproduce the parts and put it all back together. I am not that skilled. I guarantee you I could not get all of the pieces back together. All right. Let's do another heat. Oh, wait, we got an ad break coming up. I'll wait out the ad break over on Twitch, and then we'll do our last heat on the flipping section. Then we're going to flip the whole project and start working on our pineapple twist. And I'll kind of explain to you a little bit about how that works as we go. You watched the last Alec video. Yes, it's been interesting. And like, I also think that it's fun, or it's kind of, I have some sympathy for him because he thought it was just going to be like, clean up a couple things, put a new coat of paint on it and you're good to go. But he's going to have to build so many new parts for that thing. It's crazy. It is crazy. All right, I think we're good on that. So all I need to do is finish my little hooky guy. And then we should be good to go. I might need that. I probably won't need that. So we'll stick that over there. Okay. Welcome back from our ads. So let's do our next heat. All right, so you'll be able to take the stake and flip it over with that little curve right there. So that's pretty good. Now we are going to flip it over and drop it. But we're going to toss it in the forge this direction so that we can do our twist on this section right here. If I can get it in and out of the forge, that is. If I can get it in and out of the forge. I think I'm going to change tongs to these guys again. We'll see what we can do. We might need those a little bit later. You know what? I am not a smart woman sometimes. I need to pull this out of the forge. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera and then we're going to talk a little bit. Yeah, sometimes I get ahead of myself. I don't need to we're making a pineapple twist. We're not making just a regular twist. So I need to set up my pineapple twist. I need to set it up. Okay. So, let me plug in my angle grinder real fast. Whoa. As I trip over a piece of steel. Man, I am not doing so hot today. Okay, so. Oh, all right. Well, goodness gracious. Let's not wrap our cabling around the leg of our tripod. That also helps. Okay. See if I can do this. Let's see if I can do this right. This might be a first thing Wednesday morning thing, but I hope that we can get it done today. Okay. Got rid of the grinder disc. Now, that one is not working. That one's not going to work. Means I need a fresh disc. Good thing I buy them in packs of 10. Okay. Okay. Put that there. Like inside my vise. You can kind of see what's going on there. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to make a line through there. Like so. And then we're going to turn it and we're going to create a line on all four sides. So this one's going to be the shallowest one. And I'm hoping that it works for us. So this is going to be a little bit of a process. Let me grab my dust mask so I'm not inhaling all of the ickiness. Okay, let's see if we can do this. All right, so we've got an angle ground start. So we'll probably heat that up, and maybe I have to decide whether I want to use a chisel to finish that off or if I don't, if it's all right. So we'll see. We'll see. Now we're going to turn this guy 90 degrees. Stick him in there. Like so. Oops, wrong tool. Okay. Now we have lines all the way around it. So we can heat that back up and we'll twist it around. Okay. So we have another set of 4 lines also that we need to do. But we need to do a half twist first. Or maybe a full twist. We'll see. We'll see how far we can twist it. So, the next thing that we need is a wrench. I don't have a good set of twisting bars, so we're going to try and use the wrench. So it's going to take us a little bit of time to heat this guy up. It's going to take us a little bit of time. I think. It's going to take us enough time. I don't know. What time is it now? I think we have about 15 more minutes left in our stream. Yeah. But that's all right. We'll see how far we can get. We will definitely have a fluted twist today. If I can't get the pineapple, we will finish the pineapple on Wednesday, first thing. We'll see if I can handle it. We'll see how long it takes to heat that up. We're almost done, though. We're almost done. So that's exciting. Let's see. So like I said, I want to do a full week of railroad spike projects. We have a second railroad spike, this guy right here. We're going to turn this into a dagger. What we're going to do is we are going to cut, using the angle grinder, the head of this railroad spike till about here. And when we flay those open, what we're going to do is create a hand guard. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to cut vertically this direction, so then we can open that up and create a T shape. One side is going to be the handle and the other side is going to be the dagger. So I think what we're going to end up doing is cutting off the little tapered section, the spike part of this. That way it makes it a little bit easier to create the handle and have enough material for the blade. So I think that's what we're going to do for Wednesday's stream, right after we finish the pineapple, if we can't finish it within the next few moments or minutes. I need it to be a little bit hotter. And it might also just be that I'm starting to run low on propane, so we're not quite as hot as I need it to be. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Gotta figure out, let's see. Can I hold a railroad spike this direction and twist it without hurting? That might be a challenge. That might definitely be a challenge. Do I want to do it this way? We're practicing. We're practicing our technique on the cold railroad spike. We're going to end up with a lot of material that's not being twisted that direction. Let's take a gander at what we might be able to do. That's too wide. What about a skinnier thing? Do I have anything smaller that we could use for that purpose? That might work. I do have something that we can use. Maybe. We'll use these. Probably. We'll see if we can't manage this. I don't know if we can or not. I don't know if we can. I have an idea. A different-y idea. That's not gonna help us. I know I have some angle iron that is... Sorry it's taken me so long to figure this out, guys. There's one. A piece of angle. We'll put that right there like so. And then I need another piece of angle. I think I should be able to use the bending bar if I use this side of the bending bar. That should work all right. Okay. Let me make sure that I can do this quickly. Is this gonna work? Is this what I think it's gonna happen? No, it is not what I think it's gonna happen. That's not gonna work at all. We're just gonna try it. We're gonna try it straight up. Just because never hurts to try, right? Never hurts to try. Okay, we've got 14 minutes on that. We're good on that. All right. There is a partial twist, and it's really, really bent. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that view. We're going to come over here like so. And we're going to do a little bit of straightening. All right, I need to heat that back up again, and we'll continue straightening it up a little bit. But we're starting it. We're starting it. Put that there. For now, I don't need these. Okay. 90% splaining and looking for tools, 10% actual tools use. It feels like the same across all crafts. I think it really is, to be quite honest. Well, I'm just trying, like, I've never twisted a railroad spike before, and I wanted to make sure that I could do it correctly, but it seems like I'm doing all right, at least. I'm doing all right. So the next, once I get this straight, then what we're going to do is we are going to cut in more lines, just like we did the first time. And then we're going to untwist it a quarter twist. Right now we've done a half a twist because we don't have a lot of material that we're twisting. So we don't have to twist it quite as far. Okay. So let's see about straightening it some more. Woo, yummy. Smells like hair, burning hair. That's the best. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to do our next set of cuts because it's relatively straight. It's about as straight as it's going to get. We'll straighten it a little bit more later on. But we're going to do our cuts. The smell of burning rawhide smells like victory, right? Exactly right. Okay, let's do this. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to put my face mask on, guys. I totally forgot to put my face mask on. I apologize for that. That's my bad. Let's do this quickly. Quickly, Ray. All right, let's do this. This can go on the floor, so can all of this. Because we're kind of in a hurry. A little bit of a hurry. Not a lot of a hurry, but somewhat. All right, there's that. Oh, come on. Let's hold this direction. Oh, come on. What is going on? Am I doing this wrong? Nope, I wasn't. Oh, I wasn't. I was just being dumb. There we go. That's the next side we're doing. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, that's fun. Alrighty. And one last turn. Alright. So we got our last one right there. So, next thing that we need to do, heat this back up again. Thanks for the stream. I have to take off for a martial arts class. Toss. To see if my right hip wants to be a hip today. Well. Hey, Jack. Well, have fun at your martial arts class. Have fun at your martial arts class. I let my hair fall in front of me and I put a whole bunch of like metal dust into it, so I hope I'll have to trim the ends, I guess. All right, so once that heats up again, we're going to do a quarter turn the opposite direction, and then we will have our pineapple twist handle. Just pretend it's glitter, right? Nothing to make one feel old like a hip that doesn't want a hip. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. We're almost done. Like I said, we only really have one more heat left. I just want to make sure I get that nice quarter turn so that we can get our pineapple twist completed. Itchy glitter. Yes, itchy glitter. But yeah, it'll be all right. All right, let's move that out of the way. We'll stick that down there. And like I said, this will probably be our last heat. We're just trying to heat this up, finish our pineapple twist. We do have an ad that's going to be starting in a few moments. Unfortunately, let's actually snooze that ad, because we should be able to finish in the next 5 minutes, but it's going to take a little bit longer than a minute and a half before, yeah. I always keep my hair braided and down my back for that reason. Well, normally, you know, I keep it down my back, but for whatever reason, I let it fall forward. So, my bad, but, you know, at least it didn't set it on fire, right? At least it didn't set it on fire. And now you need a shower. I always need a shower after being in here. This is the filthiest place. And that's the end of my Gatorade. Okay. Let's do this. One last heat. Whether we're done or not, one last heat. Oop. And that did not work the way I needed it to. It's all right, but maybe I should have done it. I don't know. We'll see. I think, I don't know. All right, so that's the pineapple twist the way it is right now. We'll probably mess with it a little bit further, maybe on Wednesday. I think what I did is I didn't twist it enough the first time. So yeah, that's probably my problem is I only did a half a twist and I needed to do a full twist. But that's it for the moment. And we will continue working on this later, maybe. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We are going to raid off on Twitch. Toodaloo, Jack. Thanks for joining me. All right, let's see. I also hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you on Wednesday. And thanks for the badges. Nice! You guys have the badges. Those are so cool. I like them. That's cool. All right, let's see who we can raid off to. That's what I want to see. And who's available? I think we're going to raid off to Miramac. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.